Previously on the Vampire Diaries, Tyler gave the Moonstone to Mason, but it was revealed that Mason was working for Katherine. Damon ultimately killed Mason. Sheriff Forbes discovers that his daughter is a vampire, but Caroline compels her to forget. Stefan retrieved the Moonstone, and Katherine forced Jenna to stab herself, fearing what Katherine might do next. Elena broke up with Stefan for good. The vampire brothers finally reached an agreement on killing their ex-girlfriend, but during this time, their once shared love, Katherine, has become extremely vigilant. Katherine disguised herself as Elena to approach Caroline. If Caroline hadn't known that Elena was at home, she might have been fooled. Katherine asked Caroline to relay a message to the Salvatore brothers. If they don't hand over the Moonstone, she will unleash a bloodbath in Mystic Falls. Tonight, the town is hosting a masquerade ball, and Katherine has chosen this event as the place to exchange the Moonstone. When the Salvatore brothers learned about this, they assumed Katherine was afraid and intentionally chose a crowded place to meet.
Masquerade ball, and I'm gonna kill her tonight.
You're not gonna kill her.
Don't give me that goody-goody crap.
You're not gonna kill her.
Oh, really?
Because I am.
Their murderous intent surged. Considering Katherine's cunning nature, the Salvatore brothers called in some reinforcements. Alaric recently developed new weapons, crossbows and wrist darts. Even Damon couldn't help but show a look of fear, though thankfully, Alaric is their ally.
You wanted me to show you how to kill the vampires.
But Katherine wasn't unprepared either. After all, the Salvatore brothers have a witch on their side, so she brought in a witch of her own. As evening fell, Katherine appeared at the masquerade ball disguised as Elena, even straightening her hair for the occasion, which Lucy accompanied Katherine, further highlighting Katherine's stunning beauty. Although Katherine resembles Elena in appearance, her seductive movements and queen-like aura make it easy to tell them apart. Katherine first approached Matt to hypnotize him again, ordering him to provoke Tyler. The Salvatore brothers also arrived at the ball, staying in plain sight, while Bonnie and Jeremy set up traps in the shadows. Their families have a deep history, and Bonnie joked that witches generally don't meet good ends, but Jeremy thought being a true witch was pretty cool. Tonight is bound to be turbulent, but Elena remains in the dark, while caring for Aunt Jenna at home. Elena learned that everyone was attending the ball, but she alone wasn't informed. Sensing something was off, Elena asked Alaric about it. Alaric avoids her eyes and forbids Elena to go out. After setting the traps, Bonnie spotted Lucy in the crowd. Perhaps due to a witch's intuition, Lucy appeared very friendly. On the other side, Katherine approached Stefan. They appeared to be dancing intimately, but in reality, they were engaged in a battle. Katherine demanded that Stefan hand over the Moonstone, but Stefan suggested they move to a different location. Neither side was willing to budge. Unexpectedly, a girl approached them, mistaking Katherine for Elena. Seizing the opportunity to pressure Stefan, Katherine moved behind the girl and, with a swift motion, snapped her spine. Killing someone so brazenly at the ball left Stefan shocked by Katherine's ruthlessness. To prevent further bloodshed, Stefan wanted to call off the plan, but Damon vehemently disagreed. Katherine had toyed with him for 145 years, leaving him with no love, only hatred. How could he pass up this chance? Jeremy, Bonnie, and Caroline received the signal the ambush was on. Meanwhile, after learning of Bonnie's presence, Lucy confronted Katherine for not telling her everything. She wanted out of the plan, but Lucy owed Katherine a favor, and Katherine demanded she repay it now. At that moment, Jeremy approached to deliver a message from the Salvatore brothers. They wanted Katherine to meet them by the lake. Katherine suspected a trap, so she went to Caroline to force her to reveal the Salvatore brothers' plan. Terrified of Katherine, Caroline confessed that the brothers planned to ambush her. The Moonstone was with Bonnie, so Katherine decided to coerce Caroline into taking her to Bonnie. Katherine was unaware that this was part of the Salvatore brothers' plan, and Caroline lured her into the trap Bonnie had set. The Salvatore brothers were already lying in wait. Meanwhile, Elena quietly arrived at the ball and learned of the plan to kill Katherine from Jeremy. The Salvatore brothers launched a pincer attack, with Damon shooting an arrow into Katherine's back. At the same time, Elena felt a sharp pain in her own back, and her clothes became soaked with blood. Lucy had cast a spell linking Elena and Katherine, causing any injury Katherine suffered to affect Elena as well. Unaware of the truth, the Salvatore brothers continued to harm Katherine. Bonnie was the first to realize what was happening. It was Katherine's self-preservation strategy, likely the work of that witch. In the nick of time, Jeremy stopped the brothers from killing Katherine. Katherine had deliberately kept this a secret, wanting Elena to suffer, leaving the Salvatore brothers with no choice. Katherine, now holding the upper hand, used self-harm as leverage, threatening the brothers to hand over the Moonstone. Stefan demanded to know why Katherine needed the moonstone, while Damon tried to shake her by bringing up Mason's death. But Katherine, unfazed, responded calmly,
For next time. He's not the only wolf in town.
Meanwhile, under Katherine's compulsion, Matt provoked and assaulted Tyler, unable to stop himself, not until Tyler killed him. Fortunately, Caroline witnessed the scene and knocked Matt out with a single punch. However, what they didn't expect was that Sarah, who had been watching nearby, gripped a knife, muttering under her breath. Katherine had planned well. Sarah was the second pawn in her scheme. After being stabbed, Tyler pushed Sarah with all his strength, causing her to fall and break her neck. Fate is cruel. Sarah was destined to die at Tyler's hands. Last time, she narrowly escaped after being pushed down the stairs by Tyler, but this time, fate did not spare her. Tyler's actions activated the werewolf curse. Elsewhere, the two witches confronted each other. Lucy bluntly stated that she did not want to be Bonnie's enemy and that she would break the binding spell if Bonnie handed over the moonstone. Neither was willing to back down, but when Bonnie grasped Lucy's wrist and glimpsed her memories, her hostility eased a bit. Stefan, piecing together Katherine's fake death, deduced that Katherine was seeking the moonstone to escape from someone hunting her. Whoever could make a 500-year-old Katherine fearful must be someone formidable. At that moment, Lucy brought the moonstone. The moment Katherine got her hands on it, she felt a suffocating sensation.
You should have told me another witch was involved. She's a Bennett witch, Katherine, but I'm sure you knew that.
Helping Katherine retrieve the moonstone was to repay a debt, but subduing her was Lucy's way of apologizing for her interference. It turned out Lucy was also from the Bennett family, sharing a bloodline with Bonnie. Meanwhile, Caroline, to protect Tyler, lied and claimed the girl died from an accidental fall. Tyler, having just transformed into a werewolf, was utterly confused, and Caroline, knowing the truth, was determined to help him. Though the matter with Katherine had come to an end, Elena remained shaken. When forced to choose between love and her family's safety, she chose the latter. When Katherine awoke, she found herself trapped in a sunless tomb, with only the moonstone she coveted to keep her company. Bonnie had set up a barrier there. Damon came to bid Katherine farewell.
Where am I?
Where you should have been all along.
How ironic. 145 years ago, Damon had done everything he could to save Katherine, and now he was the one to seal his former love inside. The deeper the love, the deeper the hate. As Damon prepared to close the stone door, Katherine hurriedly explained that a powerful figure was coming and that Elena was in danger. But Damon, thinking Katherine was just desperately grasping at straws, dismissed her as always being full of lies. After the masquerade, Elena was about to head home when she was suddenly abducted by a masked figure. Elena's kidnapping was orchestrated by a vampire, who took her away and drained the blood from his puppet. Elena's failure to return home overnight quickly caught Stefan's attention. He assumed this was another one of Katherine's tricks. However, Damon had personally sealed Katherine away, so it couldn't have been her. Suddenly, Damon recalled Katherine's warning. She had mentioned that Elena was in danger, but at the time, he thought she was lying again. Given the Salvatore brothers' understanding of Katherine, they knew getting information from her would come at a price, so they turned to the witch Bonnie for help. Bonnie could cast a tracking spell, but it required a relative's blood, so she used Jeremy's blood to perform the spell. Stefan obtained a batch of weapons from Alaric. Under Bonnie's spell, the blood on the map began to move, finally stopping at a location 300 miles from the town. Time was of the essence, so Stefan set out immediately. Jeremy wanted to join the mission as well. During their argument, neither Jeremy nor Stefan noticed the drop of blood trickling from Bonnie's nose. The excessive use of magic had already begun to take a toll on Bonnie's body, but she chose to endure it silently. Meanwhile, after activating the werewolf curse, Tyler's life became increasingly difficult. He was more irritable and stronger than ever, and in his quest to understand his transformation, he kept pestering Caroline. But Caroline had been warned by Damon that vampires and werewolves are mortal enemies, and she must never reveal their identities, so she refused to say anything. Tyler, who is furious, tries to use force, but finds that Caroline is actually stronger than he is. Tyler suspected that Caroline might be a werewolf too, thinking he had finally found a kindred spirit, so he snuck into Caroline's house to continue pestering her. Caroline is amused by him. Elena was taken to an abandoned castle. After waking up, she overheard two vampires discussing their plans to hand her over to someone named Elijah, hoping to end their life on the run.
Who's Elijah?
He's your worst nightmare.
Once Elena was sure her life wasn't immediately threatened, she gathered the courage to question them. A vampire named Rose told her that Elijah was one of the vampire ancestors, one of the originals. She and Trevor had been on the run for 500 years to escape the originals' wrath, and Elena was their ticket to freedom.
But why me?
Because you're a Petrova doppelganger. You're the key to breaking the curse.
It turns out that the Moonstone is the vessel for the sun and moon curse, and the Doppelgänger's blood is the key to breaking the curse. 500 years ago, Katherine was also a doppelganger. Trevor, deceived by Katherine, helped her rewrite her fate, thus angering the vampire originals. As Trevor's friend, Rose was implicated as well. Now, fate has given them another chance. They've captured Katherine's doppelganger. Meanwhile, Bonnie thought of another spell for sending a message. She wrote on a piece of paper, which turned to ash in her palm. The backlash was even stronger this time, but Bonnie made Jeremy promise to keep it a secret. At the same time, Elena received the note, learning that Stefan and Damon were on their way to find her. Before long, the renowned original vampire Elijah finally arrived. Trevor was terrified and only wanted to flee, but with Rose's reassurance, he found the courage to stay. Rose went to negotiate with Elijah alone. Elijah was indeed the refined gentleman the rumors described. When Rose mentioned Katherine's doppelganger, Elijah's first reaction was disbelief. Katherine was the last of their bloodline. Seeing how certain Rose was, Elijah's interest was piqued. Before handing over the doppelganger, Rose wanted to secure a promise from Elijah. Elijah's reputation for keeping his word was well known.
You have my word that I will pardon you.
But Rose didn't realize Elijah was playing word games. He only pardoned Rose, and no one else. When Elijah saw Elena, his expression turned grave. In an instant, he was in front of her, unable to resist taking a sniff. She was human, no doubt. Elena's face paled in fear. Elijah then moved behind Trevor, the subordinate who had once betrayed his trust.
Don't, Rose. Now that you are free.
This was the power of Elijah, one of the vampire originals. As she watched her companion beheaded, Rose's heart shattered. To buy time, Elena mentioned the Moonstone's location but refused to give it all away. Ignoring the burning of the vervain, Elijah removed Elena's necklace. He used his compulsion to learn that Katherine and the Moonstone were in the tomb. Just then, the Salvatore brothers arrived, flashing in and out of sight, not only showing off their speed in front of Elijah but also launching a surprise attack. While Elijah was momentarily distracted, Rose and Elena were whisked away by the Salvatore brothers. Elijah issued a dire ultimatum: hand over Elena, or everyone would die. Unexpectedly, Elena stepped forward, willing to go with him. Just as Elijah got close, Elena threw a vervain grenade, leaving Elijah in a state of disarray. At that moment, the Salvatore brothers launched a pincer attack, driving stakes into Elijah's body one by one, yet they couldn't slow his advance. The original's healing abilities were beyond belief. Seizing the opportunity, Damon drove a stake as thick as an arm through Elijah's heart, pinning him to the wall. Elijah's body began to wither. Rose was terrified by what she witnessed. As Elena ran toward them, Damon's face lit up with anticipation, but she threw herself into Stefan's arms. Damon was left as nothing more than a spectator. After returning home, Jeremy finally began to mature, realizing just how important his sister was. For the first time in 145 years, Stefan apologized to his brother for forcing him to become a vampire. To unite with Damon in protecting Elena, he admitted to his selfishness, but Damon didn't feel relieved. Instead, he felt even more burdened. This proved that Stefan truly loved Elena, and that love had changed him. How could Damon then stand in the way of that love?
I'm sorry. What I did was selfish.
So Damon made a decision that went against his own heart. After Damon left, the now homeless Rose showed up. She came to warn the brothers that the curse business wasn't over yet. The originals were more than just one vampire, and Elijah was merely serving someone else.
For who?
Klaus.
As Elena changed into her pajamas, she discovered Damon quietly sitting in her room. He was as flippant as ever, but his expression was unusually serious, completely different from his usual charmingly sinister demeanor. Damon found Elena's vervain necklace for her, but when she asked for it, he pulled his hand back. What followed was one of the most heartbreaking scenes in the entire series.
I love you, Elena. I can't be selfish with you. Why you can't know this? I don't deserve you, but my brother does. God, we shouldn't have to forget this. But you do.
In reality, Damon was the first to meet Elena, something that would be revealed later. In the end, Damon chose to let his brother have Elena, because she was compelled. Elena forgot everything that had happened, but she was left with a vague sense of emptiness. How did Katherine transform from a mere weak girl into a cunning queen? The story begins in 1490. In Bulgaria, Katherine gave birth out of wedlock, bringing shame upon her family. Her father took the child away, and Katherine was cast out. 2 years later, Katherine made her way to London, where she caught the attention of a nobleman named Klaus. Katherine fell in love with this wild and romantic man, but then Katherine discovered Klaus's true identity, the most powerful vampire, one of the originals. Moreover, Klaus wasn't interested in Katherine's body but rather in her blood, so Katherine fled for her life, pursued by none other than Elijah, one of the originals. Through 2 years of hardship, the once naive Katherine had become cunning and full of schemes. Before her escape, she often flirted with Elijah's subordinate, Trevor. With Trevor's help, Katherine managed to escape capture, but Trevor hid her away. Rose, Trevor's friend, couldn't stand by and watch Trevor bring death upon himself for a woman. As subordinates of the originals, they both knew how important Katherine was to Klaus. The rare doppelganger was the key to breaking Klaus's curse, so Rose planned to hand Katherine over to Klaus to save herself and Trevor. Katherine, however, would rather die than submit. She stabbed herself without hesitation. Rose quickly forced her blood into Katherine's mouth to heal the wound, much to Katherine's displeasure. At that moment, Trevor rushed in. Rose berated him for his foolishness, saying that if they returned Katherine now, there was still a chance to make things right. While they argued, a noise came from the bedroom. Rose turned to find that Katherine had disappeared from the bed. They never imagined that Katherine had taken her own life. Since Katherine had just consumed vampire blood, she was entering the transformation stage. Katherine had been acting from the start. She deceived Trevor's feelings to escape capture, then pretended to self-harm and used Rose's blood to complete her transformation. Klaus needed a human doppelganger, and once Katherine became a vampire, she lost her value. This was the only way she could survive at the time, though it brought ruin to Rose and Trevor. This explains why Rose and Trevor were on the run for 500 years, because Katherine had used them. When Katherine learned that Trevor had been slain by Elijah, she even made a sarcastic remark.
Never thought he would have lasted that long. You don't even care that you ruined their lives. I was looking out for myself, Elena.
After becoming a vampire, Katherine's blood was no longer useful, but Klaus still refused to let her go. When Katherine returned to her homeland, she found her entire family slaughtered. The hellish scene left her devastated. A vampire's life is eternal, and so was their hatred. For 500 years, Katherine has been evading Klaus's relentless pursuit. Her return to the town in search for Stefan was merely a pretext. Her true goal was to end this endless flight. To break the curse, Klaus needed not only the doppelganger's blood and the moonstone but also the sacrifice of a vampire and a werewolf. So Katherine turned Caroline into a vampire and orchestrated Tyler's transformation into a werewolf. She intended to use this package to bargain for Klaus's pardon, but now her plans have been foiled, and she is imprisoned in a cellar by the Salvatore brothers. Through Katherine's story, Elena learned of her own fate. Would she follow in Katherine's footsteps, becoming a vampire and losing her value as a doppelganger? But with that would come Klaus's wrath, threatening everyone she loves.